Gotta press the button. Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? Ooh. We have new microphones, so just bear with us until we get used to it, please. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is a special meeting of the Board of Supervisors for Monday, March 10th, 6 p.m. And if you can, please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Let's have roll call. Scarlett?
Scarlett Cantley, Francis Bethel,
Mary Viator.
Michael Johnson.
Richard Vassalotti.
Closer, Rich.
Richard Vassalotti.
Elizabeth Accomando.
Tricia Farrell.
Betty Argue.
Burgess Hanson. We also have Mr. Frank Palin on Zoom.
Thank you. So welcome, everyone. Please fill out a comment card if you'd like to speak on either agenda item. This is a special meeting, so there is no off-topic public comment. We will have 3 minutes. Scarlett, do 3 minutes for each speaker, please. Also, I want to remind everybody to visit the website if you have any questions or want any information. indiantrail.com is a great resource for everyone. Once again, I'm going to ask everybody to be respectful. This is why we're here tonight. We talk about this almost every meeting. I bring this up in the beginning that, we're all going to have passionate, strong opinions about things, but we should nonetheless respect each other. And that goes for not just our guests in the gallery, our residents, but the board itself. So I think it's important that we do this, and this is not meant to be an attack on anyone. This is just something that I think we need to clarify for every one of us, right? This is not just for one individual or singling out or anything like that. This is just something that, the board should have a policy on. And we took a very good course up when we went to FOSD, and I think it was very informative and it was great. And, we're the leaders, we're the representatives of the community, elected us to be their representative. And what we do behind this dais reflects and trickles out to our residents and other entities. And, we may not always like or agree with things, but there still has to be a level of professionalism and respect to other people's opinions. Nobody should be attacking anyone, and that's, on both sides of the table. So I want to thank you for coming out. I want to thank the participants that are on Zoom. If you would like to speak during public comment, when we get to that, please raise your hand so we can call on you. So thank you, everyone, for being here. So now we'll get to Michael. Do you have any? Nothing? Rich? Patty? Betty? Okay. All right, so let's get right to it then. Item 6.1. To establish a code of civility policy for the members of the board, consideration by the Board of Supervisors to approve a code of civility policy that applies to Indian Trail Improvement District governing body. I put out an outline, and of course, I want to hear from the other board members. Any additions or deletions to that are very much welcome. This is a group effort, like everything that we do should be. So I think it's important that we all have input. So if anybody would like to start, Michael, do you have any input on it? Yes. So if you look at page 3, I believe it is. So just take a minute if you haven't looked at it yet. Scarlett? Thank you. No input? Patty, in the meantime?
I think it's fair requests. It's fair requests. I think it's fair that we show respect to everybody. We try to keep our tempers down. I can say in our last meeting, my heart rate definitely spiked up and it wasn't even in a conversation that I was involved in. So, it would be nice if we could all just treat each other with the respect, and that's staff, that's supervisors, that's attorneys, everybody.
Is there anything you want to add or subtract from this?
Give me a couple more minutes,
Sure.
please. Thank you, Betty.
I appreciate the effort here. The only feedback that I have.
The only feedback that I have is, the last two items doesn't flow with we pledge. And I think it's a little vague to say, we understand that there's consequences for our words and actions. So I would strike that. And the last one I would change to, we pledge to work together as a team, acknowledging that we are much stronger together. And I think that's it.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Rich.
So second one from the bottom, we understand that there will be consequences for our words and actions. I think there should be consequences. And I would like to know what those consequences are. If we cannot have civility in our meetings, there needs to be consequences. Because I'm up in Tallahassee this past week and I have people coming up to me wanting to know what happened at our last board meeting. So all the way up in Tallahassee, I have people wanting to know what happened. So we got to have consequences, because if we don't, then things are going to continue and then we won't have a code of civility.
Okay, and so, as we know, our consequences are limited to what we can do. Mary, I don't know if you want to speak on this.
I think this is a very serious issue for our board. And the intent was the action of a governing body of one of its members, if we do talk about consequences. It cannot legally prevent a member from exercising the core responsibilities. So this governing board cannot say to somebody, you cannot do whatever's your job to do as a supervisor. But what you can do certain things that do not affect that person's specific ability to act as a supervisor. Can you have a situation that if the behavior is not the standard that you want, you could have a verbal reprimand? You can go ahead and address items that are not specifically with the supervisors, you all acting as a supervisor as duly elected officials. You can, for those activities that this board appoints different supervisors to fill, if we're dealing with the assignments to the particular areas that you're assigned to represent the district, you can do that. You can also, if someone's an officer, you can, these are all the consequence, but they're the actions that our board presently can still exercise.
So actions that we've already taken. So we're not removing anybody from the board. We're not
You cannot do that.
stopping anybody from speaking. We're not, I
cannot
just
do
want to
that.
make this clear to everybody that that is not the case. That is not something that we're doing.
No.
But, right, so in other words, things that we've voted on that we can basically undo is what you're saying.
Within your legal authorizations, you have no right to remove a duly
Right.
elected official
Right,
from the board.
absolutely, right.
You have no ability to recall.
Right.
those are things that are not within the discretion of a board of supervisor, a special district.
Okay.
Those things that you are able and you do appoint people to certain positions or assignments that you can do. With a civility code, you can make comments, reprimands. But please understand that these quote consequences do not take away from the supervisor's ability to conduct and perform their jobs.
Very
And
good.
that's the paramount.
Okay, so to Mr. Vasilotti's point, knowing that these are our options, do we need to have it specifically written into the code?
You're not required, it's not required.
Okay, so,
The one
so
thing
those
though,
are,
let me just
Go ahead.
qualify, but the one thing is when you have these type of procedures or policies in action, what they are important for is when something arises in the moment, that you at least know what your options are.
right,
And I think that gives guidance to the board members as well as to the public.
so, so let's just say there's an incident, I go crazy, and I lose it, and I start screaming at everybody. The board can take immediate action at that moment, correct?
They
If-
can,
Once we have this,
but there's also the requirement that if someone is it's being alleged that someone's not conducting themselves in a civil manner, they have a right to be able to respond and explain
of course.
their situation.
Okay. Which is that satisfactory for you?
Believe if, as I started my opening comments in the last meeting, was that I appreciate people's passion and,
Right.
and about our community. But we are at the bottom of the food chain, and we will be dismissed 100% if we don't get it together. Whether it's our residents that are speaking, whether it's a board, it doesn't matter. So when you're at the bottom of the food chain, we'll get eaten up. So that will be our consequence, in my opinion.
And that's much, much worse than what we do to each other. Because that has long lasting ramifications. Okay, Patty, are you ready?
I'm okay with keeping the last two, but maybe change instead of we pledge. We pledge to understand that there will be consequences for our words and actions. And we can remove, Betty, you said you want to just remove the will not always agree, and keep the we are a team. We pledge to be a team.
Let's to work together as a team.
Yeah, that's fine. I agree with that. And as long as we understand, and I think future board members understand that there's a guideline, that shouldn't have been written in words, but we understand it, and there's ramifications for these actions. Hopefully we can all have respect and just debate things healthy, not attack.
Yes, for this civility pledge. And so we've got clarification for all the points are all the same except the last two.
Right.
Okay.
We're rejecting pledge, we pledge. Oh, shoot, I'm sorry. So we're injecting pledge, second from the bottom, we pledge.
Well, I don't think we're
No,
doing the
that
we
doesn't
pledge
make
story at the
sense.
top.
Yeah, okay, so we out and two, okay, gotcha, so no we. Got it. And then the last line, we're replacing, while we will not always agree, we are with, we pledge to work together as a team and are much stronger together.
I thought the first part was in Miss Argue's lines. What,
Right.
Let's
We-
work together as a team.
Yes,
Acknowledge that we are much stronger.
We,
We'll get used to
we
it.
pledge to work together as a team and acknowledge that we are much stronger together.
Okay, thank you. I thought that was old.
But I don't
Okay.
think the second last one works at all in terms of the verbiage. I think if you're trying to have some sort of reprimands or consequences, I think it's better to start a new paragraph and then set it out in terms of in the event, then here's the steps that must be followed by
So
the
then-
board.
So then you'd like to
So
put
that in
those
fairness,
items in?
yes, but also the things that Mary's talking about in terms of the opportunity to defend.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so in the event of uncivil action, uncivil, how do you want to
Mhm.
say that? In the event of incivility, there will be consequences for our words and actions.
But who makes that
But-
decision?
Well, I
board-
think
That's gonna be
as
the board
The
members.
board as a
So,
whole.
and a board as a
I
whole?
think if a board
Well-
member brings it up
Yes.
and then we have a
have
discussion
to-
regarding it.
Right,
right.
And
It
then
would
So
be
any
all
board
of us.
member can bring it up?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this works for everybody.
So, but you have to have a process.
Yeah,
So the
exactly.
board,
Right.
so in the event that there is a situation of incivility, then a board member may request that this be on an agenda.
No, I think we should address it immediately, I think, rather than waiting, because, all right, so he says something out of line. Another board member brings it up. Have the discussion right then and there, I feel this way because you did that. Then there's the defense on the other hand, and then if there needs to be an action taken.
Sometimes I think that emotions are a little too much in the moment.
I was about to say
And
that.
in the last.
We're not gonna, right, we're not gonna,
I
you
think-
know,
I think it should be brought up at that moment, but maybe it needs to be.
Do you want to defer or, I mean, I think the intent was to try to address the situations, but but we are acknowledging the heat of the moment too.
okay.
I think we just need it on the record that there was an issue.
Right.
And then if that board member feels like they need to bring it further, then maybe it becomes an agenda item or however that would.
You could direct it that way.
Michael? Okay, all right, so we're moving the second to last down to its own. In the event of a situation of uncivility, there will be consequences for our words and actions. Do we want to, Betty, you want to put those
Well,
in there?
Yeah, I would
Okay.
say in the event of a situation of uncivility, I mean, legal can write this,
Right.
but comma, a board member may request
A review.
a review or whatever whatever you want to call it, request a a review or discussion by the
future-
board.
Future review and
Yeah.
discussions.
Pia, please. Okay, Pia, please, okay? Thank you.
May request a review or discussion of the event in question.
At a later time.
At the next
At a
meeting.
near future meeting.
Yeah, I wouldn't be calling a special meeting for it, but
No,
at the next
right,
meeting.
yeah.
And then I think the things that Mary talked about
The
in terms of
opportunity,
the rights of the person
right,
to actually have the opportunity to defend. I
Right.
think that verbiage needs to be in there. And then the consequences the board may consider would be the verbal reprimand, removed from assignments or removed as an officer. If applicable. And it's not all, it's
if or
Yeah.
options.
right.
Very good. We're good?
Are we gonna have a
So-
motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
Do I have to read it all?
No,
Okay.
please.
but you got it, right?
We
Okay,
have it and we
you're
got the
good.
tape.
And you'll
Yes. we'll-
legalese it up
and we'll get it out
send
to everybody.
Perfect. Okay, do I have a second? Okay, seconded by Rich. Hey, public comment.
First, we have Kirk Lindquist.
Okay, so look,
All right,
go
can
ahead.
wait. Shira Waite. 150. Yeah. Sharon.
Sharon Waite, 15058 75th Lane North, Loxahatchee. I don't know what was going on before and why you have officers here wanding everybody. That doesn't seem necessary. It seems like a little bit of overkill, but I'm thinking that if we have more clarity when we have meetings, clarity about issues, and more transparency about what happens here. Most people have no idea what you do here on a day-to-day basis, what we're paying for. And I think in the older days, Penny, Riccio, and when Myra was president and all those people back then used to send out newsletters periodically. I think that would go a long way to ending a lot of the trouble you have. We didn't have this trouble before, and I've been here 30 years, and I can say I've been on the front lines for most of those years, and that would help a great deal. And the only excuse I ever heard was it'll cost too much. Well, our prices have been going up every year since. I want to know what we're getting for our money. Newsletters would be very helpful, especially with all the newbies coming in. I don't want them dragging in their New York State and Northern living ways down here. That doesn't work. I don't want them here with that. We are not like New York State. We are not like New York City. And I come from an area like this where we don't even lock our doors. We hand our homes down to the next of kin. We don't sell them and leave. When we die, it's in our will to go to whoever next. So I'm just thinking, I want to go back to the way things were. It was a lot better.
I think a lot of people share that sentiment, Sharon. And just so you know, we have a PR company that is going to be helping to do more public information. So we are working on that. So just so you know. Okay, next.
Fernan. Fernan G.
Good evening. Well, I know you,
State your name. please.
Hernan Guerrero,
Thank you. Your
Thank you.
address for the record.
20231 Antoinette Street, Loxahatchee, Florida. Sharon's, I know you just spoke about that and there might be a change in the future. Sharon's idea of the newsletter would be cool. I don't know how practical it is, but it would be nice to get updated. Sometimes even people like me who come every meeting every month fly out of the country. I don't catch it virtually. I had no idea what happened. Maybe I wasn't involved too much because nothing in my area was going to happen, but that would be a cool idea to think about. I don't know if it's, I haven't, she just mentioned, I don't know if it's going to be great or not, but maybe think about it. And the fact I'm an objective person. I'm pretty practical. The fact that we have to have an exclusive topic for, an event or something that occurred in a prior meeting, to me is silly. If you're sitting in that seat, you have to be professional. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just saying that that's what we expect as a public. If we voted for you, that's like a prerequisite. If you're going into that seat, that has to happen. The fact that we're going to take time out for an event that should have never happened is silly to start with. I don't know what the solution is. I'm not convinced the solution is a specific point to review the event. I'm not too sure I'm not recommending a solution either because I don't have one. But I wanted to point out that if you're sitting in one of those 5 seats, you have to be professional, you have to be objective. And, maybe think about it a little longer before we have to put in more time and money into something that should have never happened. That's all I got for this point. Thank you.
Hernan, I'd just like to say, I think it would be great. I think we do a lot of updating on our social media, but if you miss a meeting, they're recorded and you can go onto our websites and watch it. So there are ways to stay intact if you miss the meeting. You didn't mark down if you wanted to speak or not. Do you want to speak? You're up.
Very important.
It's the microphone, name and address, please.
Down.
And
122 Orange Grove Boulevard.
I don't think we
And
can
you are
require
all very-
address.
Yeah, you
actually.
didn't make anybody else say their address or their name. But anyway, whatever. I'll skip that comment. How's that? I'm not in favor of any policy that chills free speech. Therefore, I am not in favor of punitive enforcement that affects free speech. People in this community elected you so that you could speak for residents, and we want you to be able to do that. All of it, each and every one of you, whether we like what you say or not. This board has been in existence for a very long time, well before you guys. There's never been a need for a policy for retribution or enforcement or anything like that. That indicates to me that this meeting isn't really being run properly. Each time that one of you is rude or catty or interrupts another one of you, you are insulting all of us because we voted for you guys. So I'd like to see that gavel go up a little bit more when there are rude and catty comments and people are interrupting other people. Can you do better? Sure you can. Each of us can do better. Do you have an ethics policy? Because we've asked you about that a few times and so far haven't heard any. I think you need an ethics policy. You haven't responded to us about the questions that we asked about ethics. I would advise each of you as elected representatives not to agree to anything that will keep you from saying what you need to say. Staff's attitude has also not been great. They need to understand they work for the whole board, not just for the president, not just for the vice president or the secretary. They work for all of you, and the same for the attorneys. Like to hear a little bit more from the attorneys every now and then, because I think we have some very important legal stuff going on. So I'd like to hear you guys speak up a little more. Rich, I'm sorry, this is for you. Next time you talk about residents' attendance at a meeting, you should speak to those who attended before you speak. At the last county meeting, 4 residents got up spontaneously, it wasn't planned, and we walked out. We thanked the commissioners for voting with the people. That's all that happened, okay? We did that because we were in shock that our commissioner once again sold us out. When are you guys going to talk about that? I've written to each of you, or many of you, not all of you, about what your positions are on things that are happening in this community. No response. Okay. Please consider on comment cards, calling the last call before the end of the comment card so we know that we're going to miss the situation. Again, I urge you to get some due process if you're implementing a policy. Consider having some residents, not just the board, to make a decision.
Thank you.
We actually hired.
Okay. Kirk, you're up.
Oh, yeah. Kirk Youngquist, 145-389 4th Street North, West Palm. We talking about how y'all treat people? Okay. Well, at the same point, yes. All of a sudden, when you guys turn around ethics and all that, like when I went to go speak about stuff. So yes, I have to speak quick because I only have 3 minutes. And then, all of a sudden you'll just change the time and just say, hey, y'all don't get nothing to say. You know, we'd like to know why we're paying $1,000 out here and the services aren't worth $1,000. It's like driving a Yugo, but you're paying Mercedes prices. You know, our places look like crap. I travel all over digging pools. Okay. All these other communities look nice. and that. Did you ever talk to him, Mr. Burgess, about him, that you called me a liar? Did you ever talk to him? Oh, about the,
Kurt, we are not
What?
addressing a specific board member. We are not attacking board members. This is the whole
I know
point
you
of this
were a
meeting.
sinister, and they were-
This is not,
Okay.
this is not a back and forth. Say your piece.
I'm saying
And
my
then-
piece that you see, like that, before you all cut me off, won't answer no questions. Okay,
Kurt, remind me after the meeting, okay?
but then some people you'll answer questions and sit there just because they agree with you. See, like that, you're shaking your head. Why are you shaking your head? You should have no opinion at that point. You should just go like that. We can go back through tapes and see when I tried to say something about stuff and you, oh, you know, but you all need to stop worrying about what's best for y'all. What's best for the community. The problem is you all just go on your little things and try to get your own stuff done. You don't get nothing, you're not trying for the community. I'm saying for what we pay for, you go to Jupiter Farms. Our shit doesn't look like that. Our stuff is nasty, you know, and we got everybody, how many supervisors you got? Do you all even go after a supervisor? See, everybody's a supervisor in Indian Trails. You ain't got no workers, everybody's a supervisor. They change supervisors. But is that not part of your all's job? To check to make sure he's doing it, but make sure he gets a whole bunch of money, okay? But that job should be done. Okay, just like when somebody ends up suing y'all because the roads ain't flooded, or the roads are flooded, you got a little bit of rain. Problem is, when the dirt roads, you need to scrape the sides. You're in charge of the swells, maintaining water. So when the water builds up because you ain't got nowhere to go, but it has to run to someone's driveway or something, take the dirt off the side.
Thank you. I would like to point out something. None of what we're talking about today is to stifle anyone from giving their opinion. It's a matter of the way that it's conducted. So just nobody's being stifled. Everybody has a right to say what they want to say, but it's got to be said civilly. Like I've always said, we don't always have to agree, and we're not always going to agree on a matter, but we can't be rude to each other. And that comes from both sides. So we are not stifling anything that the board is saying. Understand, you know, some things that come up.
We have 2 raised hands online.
Thank you. Some things that come up, we are not to be answered during public comment, but you know, at any other time. We have a whole month to discuss these things. Okay, go ahead with the first person online, Carrie, please.
Linda Hollinsworth.
I'm sorry,
Linda Hollinsworth.
Linda. Go ahead, Linda. Can you hear us? Oh, Dawn. Okay,
I'm sorry, Dawn Hollinsworth.
okay. Did you fill up? Okay, yeah, good. So that's for the next item, not this one, Dawn? Okay,
Okay,
all right, Carrie, who's the next person online?
Lisa Johnson.
Lisa?
We just let them talk.
Can you hear me? Can you hear?
We can hear you, Lisa. Thank you.
Hi, thanks for letting me speak. I appreciate it. I've had some family matters and I missed the last meeting. I did watch some of it. I've been very, very busy. I did want to say something like when I did watch the meeting, I noticed, and I've noticed this at other meetings, that when maybe a board member says something and another board member comes back with a negative comment about that specific thing. And I think a lot of that has to do with not being able to communicate about things because of the sunshine law, because you guys aren't together. I mean, you have to all be together. And I see that with the residents as well. And I've requested many times if we could have workshops when and I'm gonna use an example. If one board member might say they want to do things this way, and another one says, no, that's idiotic or something like that, that instead of saying that, say, why don't we put that on the workshop as a subject? And let's discuss it all together and with the community as well. I just really think that would solve a lot of this. If you're not agreeing with things at a meeting, that things can't be discussed, they can be just brought to a workshop, and that would just think that would work great. And I did want to mention something about that meeting. I was there, and I want to tell you that what really upset me at that meeting is because all the other commissioners said to Sarah, we're going to let you do because it's your community. You know the best. It's your district. And after that meeting, I wrote a nice letter to Sarah Baxter, and I apologized for getting up and leaving, but I was so taken back. I was so taken back that they did that, and they that the other commissioners just deferred. And I asked her because they said that she knows the best for her community. And she said she knows what her community wants. And I asked her to have a meeting for like she did for the truckers, like she did for the roads, to get the community together and get the community and ask them, get the general consensus of what we want. Do we want big commercial? And so I asked her for that, and I haven't heard back from her yet. And I did want you to know
Okay.
that.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me talk. Bye.
Carrie, anybody else? Okay. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Dawn Hollinsworth, 13478 67th Street North. I wasn't at the last meeting, so I'm not sure really what took place. But I'm just here to talk about the AAL again, because I did
Yep.
send.
Yeah, we are not, this is specific
Okay, so we're
to
gonna
this
talk about-
agenda
okay,
item.
So I'm.
We're not talking about anything else except for this.
About 6.2 and the conduct of board members.
Okay. So we're good. All right. Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second to adopt a code of civility. All in favor?
Put on your microphones. Aye.
Okay, see that
Aye.
passes 5-0.
I
Okay. All right, now. So 6.2. The last meeting. I'm looking at you because I'm not, but we have to address it. I'm not targeting, I wasn't targeting anything because this goes across the board, but we do have to address what happened last month. We're gonna get passionate and we're gonna get mad and we're gonna do that, but name calling has got to end. I mean, it really, and I, this has,
Just leave it on for now.
this has been something that, this is why we need to get a handle on it and why we need to address it. So Pia, this is, excuse me, Pia.
Yeah.
This is not your time to talk. So please let us have, if you would allow us to speak, that would be appreciated. Thank you. You'll have your minutes. Okay? This is exactly. And it's hard to get work done. So this is why we have public comment during public comment. You know,
Just carry
the,
on.
the code, works both ways, Pia. So please, it does. So please be respectful. That's up to you guys.
I object to that.
I think Pia needs to go.
I-
This is exactly what we're talking about.
I think you can carry on.
And the residents.
Okay, let's.
Okay,
Pia,
then we, will-
Pia,
then you know
please
what?
stop.
Then let's reopen this and we need to add some stuff to our code of civility.
We actually already have in our
Under
policies and
regular
procedures
policies, we do have
regarding members of the public.
Public and their public
And
comments.
yes.
And it has to be relevant and on point and to what the topic is.
So outbursts from through the
It's
chair,
unacceptable. And,
unacceptable.
and for a prior discussion, our rules do not allow for back and forth between the supervisors and the public. The reason is that it's for the board to make their decisions, and before they make a board decision, the public has a right to give their comments, and that way the board has the benefit of those comments when they make their decision. But this is a business decision of the board.
I would like to point out that, and Mr. Kirk had pointed out this. There were several people that spoke before him, and there were board members that had comments to say after they were done speaking. So, you know,
After.
we do
Right.
need to be consistent
Yes.
in terms of, if we're gonna say this is public comment time, we're just gonna listen to public comment. Then we need to be consistent all the time. It can't just be because we don't like what this person's saying. Okay, so it was a very valid point, and I think that Pia, you have to understand that this is the board meeting. I think most public members do not understand how our meetings work. Okay, they have an opportunity to speak under public comment. Sometimes they're passionate, just like we get passionate. Okay, but we already have a code of conduct for that. And I don't think that trying to muffle the public is a good look for us. And I'm just going to leave it at that. And I also stated that at the last meeting, that my personal opinion is that people have a First Amendment right to speak, just as I do. I was elected to represent the people in this community, and I'm going to continue to do that, whether people like it or not, what my position is and what I have to say. So, and we're not going to like what the public has to say always. We're not going to like their criticisms. We're not going to like all their ideas, but we should be listening, because Kirk mentioned a few things that I heard and that I talked to him during the campaign. And yeah, we used to do certain things like scraping off dirt at the side of the road. And that's why it's important that we always listen even to the people that maybe may not be as articulate. So,
Absolutely. And I agree, but it can't be, it has to be done civilly, not
Yes.
outbursts.
yes.
I think that's the point that we're trying to make. Patty?
Through the chair.
Mhm.
I don't think any of us want to stomp on anybody's First Amendment rights, but I think there's a way to do it, and there's a way to do it respectfully. And when you're in this setting and you're given a public time to speak, the outburst from out there is inexcusable. And when you're asked one time to stop, it should stop then. We shouldn't have to go and say something over and over. I think if it comes to that point, I think it's a 1 and a 2, and if you do it again, or if you do it on the second time, you're asked to be removed, because we're not setting an example of how everybody should be behaving in here, and it should be a respectful matter. So I hope I'm clarifying. I think Rich feels the same way, that there should be no talking over or interrupting. I think I agree with you that, during public comment, there should be no going back and forth. It should be, let the person have their 3 minutes, let them say what they have to say. But I also feel, and I know you've done it on a few occasions, that after they're done with their public comment, if there's something we can do to clarify, not to go back and forth, but to say, hey, you can go online and watch the videos to see what was discussed, or whatever else. I think if there's an opportunity to just do a clarification there, just real quick, no back and forth, they're already back away from the podium. I feel like that's a proper decorum, but to go back and forth and whatnot, and it loses track of where we should be standing. So.
I agree. And
yet
you have, like, let's, if there is an issue after a public comment, and sometimes we redirect staff at that point. I don't see anything wrong with that. But having, and I hate to call it an argument, because it's not really an argument, but that back and forth, yeah, right. And I agree. We should not be doing that. But to have a comment afterward, Sharon's asking, hey, get the word out more. Well, it's important for her to know that we are working on that. And that is, validating her issue, I think. So I think in a case like that, yeah, absolutely. Or say, hey, staff, look into this, like whatever Mr. Lindquist's issue is. So I don't see anything wrong with that afterward, but I agree. It shouldn't be while they're standing at the podium going back and forth.
Or
I mean,
attacking them.
yeah, right. Well, absolutely not. We should never be doing that. And we definitely don't want to, stifle anybody from speaking their mind. That's their right. And the same goes for the board, but it's a matter of how it's done. And that's the critical part. And this is what we need to talk about, what happened at the last meeting, because, it was a passionate subject, but we have a lot of important things that we're going to be dealing with. And so, we have to be, again, we're not going to always agree, but we have to at least be a strong team, a unified board. We're not all going to get, I want everything lined up as A and he wants everything lined up as B. We're going to have to compromise with things, and the name calling. I mean, this has been going on, and it was too much last month, and it needs to be addressed. And I don't want to see that anymore. We're all really good and we all bring so much to the table. None of us should be treating each other that way. And when the residents see us treating each other that way, how can we say to them, well, don't treat us that way? Well, heck, you're sitting back there and you're doing it. So I'm calling you this name. So I can call you that name because you're doing it yourself. So we have to be our standard has to be high. And I feel like we can do that. We're all intelligent. We all care very much about this community and what happens to this community and how we can shape what's being forced upon us as far as growth. And these are very critical issues. And if we work together, we're going to be a force to be reckoned with, right? But if we're fighting and being so mad over one item or two items or whatever the case may be, we're not going to accomplish what we want to accomplish as a group, as a whole, as the leaders of this community. So it's just as important for us to hear each other. There have been things that, I've compromised and given in on that I felt was 100% wrong. There was no name calling about it. I listened to the residents. I listened to the other board members, and we moved on and we moved forward and we got things done. And that's what we're here to do. So I just hope that we can all, be in a place where we don't have these issues. And I don't want to see anybody get to the point where they're so mad that they feel like they have to run out of a meeting. I mean, and for the record, I
So,
mean, that was,
for the record.
yes.
Let me
So,
clarify that.
yes.
So, the meeting started out right out the gate that, Mr. Vassalotti had, a very passionate thing to say, which I disagreed with. And I said so in my comments. Okay. The meeting proceeded from there. I'm not going to go play by play, but if you go back and watch the meeting, it's all there. Okay. To the point that I was interrupted when I was speaking many times, rudely. And then, in addition to that, my ideas being called moronic. When I think if anybody knows the condition of 180th where I live, and the fact that that is not an appropriate location for a fire station, I think I have the right to actually share that and speak on behalf of the people that I've heard in my community that have said that they don't want it there. Okay. And so that's what I was trying to express. Multiple times I have requested items be put on the agenda. I have requested that the board take a position, reiterate our position, and that has been denied repeatedly. Yet we have you going to meetings and other board members talking to people that is not necessarily what the board has taken a position on or that has been discussed publicly. And that angers me because hold on, there is no one person on this board that is the voice for this board, whether or not you are the president or whether you're appointed, your authority comes from this board. Okay? And that means that the individual decisions, the individual situations should be brought to the board for discussion and direction, not for individuals to go off and say, this is what the position of the board is when the board hasn't even discussed it. Okay? So the next thing is that when that happened, I was having a medical episode, and that's all I'm going to say. I did not leave because I was angry, but because I was angry, it actually exacerbated the situation and I needed to leave, which is why I jumped on afterwards. So I'm going to leave it at that. By the way, while I was walking out and I said, I'm done, okay, somebody said, good. And I turned around and that's when I responded. If I had not had that, I would not have said what I said. And by the way, you never objected when I was called names in past meetings, twice the same name by this individual. Okay. And at oh, you want me to repeat it?
No,
Because
I would like you to pull it up.
you
I would
called me
like
a
you to pull
bitch.
it up.
Excuse
you
me.
thought I did,
Excuse
but you
me.
did.
Excuse
We're
me.
not going to argue.
You did.
We're not going to argue.
Can I interject in one thing? I think that's why we're here tonight.
Right.
It's very important to have public discourse, whether it's Ms. Argue with her deep feelings about certain things, where it's Mr. Vasilati's feelings and concerns, that we focus on the way we express it to each other,
Mhm.
because this is a fabulous community and you all together can make a difference. And I'm going to leave it at that, but I think that's the perfect reason why you have this particular discussion, so you can go forward together.
I agree. I agree. I'm just gonna say one thing. I don't know of anybody, and you may know something that I don't know, but I don't think there's anybody having outside meetings saying they're representing the board. I mean, I've heard you've had some meetings with a neighboring community and I didn't go crazy about it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, not even, I don't even want to bring it up. Okay, it doesn't matter.
I have
Like
never-
Mary said. But I know I can speak for myself that I have never gone to any meeting and said, I represent the board. Just like when you wrote the letter about the roads and the 5-year road plan, you stated, I am a supervisor writing to you as a resident. I do not represent the board, right? I think every one of us know better than doing that. So I don't know where you got that idea or who you're talking about, but none of us should be doing that regardless, right? Unless the board meets and the board discusses it. Now, having a meeting and bringing back information, any one of us can do that, right? But we're not representing the board as a whole until the board as a whole votes on it. So just to be clear with everybody, right? Okay, so go ahead, Patty.
I understand we're trying to get resolution, but I think if we don't call out certain behaviors, then maybe the person can look back and say, you know what, I have done that. And I will admit that, yes, when you were leaving and you said, I'm done, and I said, are you leaving? And you said, yes, and I said, good. Because it was very stressful. The way everybody is talking to one another, the way that you direct, the way you speak, the way you were speaking to Rich, the way you speak to our staff, the way you speak to our attorney, the way you speak to Elizabeth. I can tell you, and I showed Elizabeth, my heart rate was 111. And I wasn't even talking at the time. I was getting warnings that my heart rate was escalated. I think, was I wrong with saying that? I was, and I apologize. But I will say, watch what you throw out, because you are as guilty, if not more guilty, than any of us sitting up on this board with interrupting people in the middle of a sentence, or not having everybody else point of order through the chair, and you just go off and you start talking. I think there has to be a decorum set. I think it's not even decorum set. It's something that is set, and you should be following it. I understand you're very passionate in what you want to talk, and I think you are extremely knowledgeable on the history of this district. I think you're very passionate about things that you want done here. I think we just need to watch and make sure we're not stepping on people's toes while we're doing it. Speaking on behalf of the board, I can say I've witnessed you doing it at an event up out of state or out of the county. And I witnessed you representing the we. We do not want. So it has been done. I have seen it. I have witnessed it.
What you're speaking of was something that was actually a position that the board had taken.
It was
But just
something,
because it
it was something at the time that had just been introduced to us that weekend. The name calling, I can tell you, I know exactly when you're talking about that, and I didn't say bitch, excuse my language. I said, it's what you do. You heard something different. And you're right. I said, it's what you do, and you thought I called you a name. You even asked me to verify it, and I clarified what I said. And if you'd like, you can go back and listen to it. I never called you a name. I would never be that disrespectful to a fellow supervisor. I have a lot of respect for everybody that's up here. I have a lot of respect for the volunteering that they do. And I would never do that in a public forum and call you that. So it was disrespectful that what you did the other day, no matter what, no matter what. You have done plenty of things to I can't say each one of us because I feel like Michael, he's kind of stays with himself and does what he has to do. But those of us that do any going against you, AAL, 94th, the canal, anything, and you just get very disrespectful. And listen, I don't mind you speaking and saying things. I think I proved it when I was doing AAL. There's a way to do something, and I know we're not going to agree, but there's a way you do it, and you do it with respect. That's all I think any of us are asking, is just to be treated with respect. And I think the same thing forward of making any claims against any government official. I think it should be very careful what you're doing. That's all. And again, I apologize for last month's my comment to you. I don't think it brought the right for you to call the name, but that's whatever. And the other time that you're trying to state that I said something, I did not say it. And if I did, I would have apologized.
Michael? Rich? Nothing?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good at the moment.
So that being said, how do we move forward from here with this? This is my question to the board.
I'm quite fine with adopting this, which we already have, this code of civility. But I quite frankly think trying to retroactively apply anything is a bit misdirected. And I object to that.
Okay, well, I would have liked to have had this meeting several weeks ago, but unfortunately, it couldn't happen because of procedurally and the fact that we had to go out of town. Because I did want to address this separately. I don't think we're I don't think we need a piece of paper saying that we need to be civil to each other. And I think that, it's unfortunate that we had to adopt this policy at all, because, it should go without saying. But, this is something that has been going on, and it's been, whenever there's a strong position on something, and to what Patty said, there have been times when other governments, have been called to the carpet as well. And I think it's very inappropriate. And the Code of Civility gives us the opportunity to address it at the time, but because we didn't have that, unfortunately, we're in a position now to be talking about it after the fact. That's why I reiterated, we are going to have a discussion and I hope it never happens again. But if it does, we are going to address it immediately. Will the final decision be made at the following month? I'm fine with that, but I think we have to address it immediately. Unfortunately, we didn't have that opportunity because we didn't have a piece of paper telling us how to behave and to get along with each other, which again, I don't think we should have to have, but clearly we do. There's, there have been other instances with name calling many, many times, and it's not appropriate. And we have to deal with that, and we have to address it. So, I mean, it's up to the board. I am not the end all be all with this. I'm just trying to bring something forward to make our meetings go smoother so we can get our business done and deal with everything that's coming, flying at us at light speed these days. So I am not the one that is going to say to do or not to do, whatever. I am leaving that to my colleagues. Patty, go ahead.
So if I felt like this code of civility would be the answer to our request of the way board members speak with one another, I would probably let this lie, but I know there's been other actions taken, and I feel like it needs to be done now. And I think we should, I'd like to make a motion of removing Betty as, secretary.
Okay, Supervisor Farrell made a motion. Do I have a second? Michael? Rich? No. We do not have a second.
I think we need to understand how serious this is and that we all speak to one another with respect. And understanding that if the outbursts continue, that we're gonna take a stand.
Rich? Yes. Absolutely.
The First Amendment. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. And I'm telling you right now, folks, when you are boisterous from the seats, it looks bad. I'm telling you right now, I know a lot of people on the other side, and they do not appreciate it. We will be eaten up. Secondly, as far as residents who are having outbursts from the crowd, immediate ejection from now on is what I would like to see. Thirdly, as far as what Supervisor Farrell was just stating, I'm not prepared to do that yet. However, if this type of behavior continues, then yes, I would agree. But right now at the moment, as far as removing Ms. Argue from her secretary position, not at the moment.
Okay. Anybody else have any other comments? Okay, nothing? Do we have public comment on this?
We do have two people. with
We have no
hands raised.
motion. We have no
Oh, there's no
motion, so we
motion,
don't
so
need to
there's
have
no
a,
public
no
comment.
public comment.
Okay,
Don wanted to.
so how are we gonna, Mary?
If there's no motion, then there's.
But there's no motion, then they're not going to,
they're not
there's no
swaying
action.
anybody's Opinion.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if you have no motion, you're not required to have public comment.
We're not required, but we still could.
If that's up to the, it's up to the.
I think we should. They came for this and I feel like it's only right.
Well,
that
that's up to the
we
board.
hear them. Yeah, absolutely.
It's up to the board.
Okay, just give us 1 second.
Don Hollingsworth.
Dawn Hollingsworth, 13478 67th Street North. This is the first meeting that I'm able to have a conversation or comment about since doing my public records request. So I did a public records request January 15th, and I got all of my records returned to me on March 7th. So that's why I'm here today.
Okay.
When
So,
hold on. When can you have a back and forth discussion? Because when you have a public records request and you get 10% of what you've requested, when do you have the opportunity to ask the board, why do you not have these things? When does that take place?
So basically, you would have to have an individual conversation. And then that board member would then go to the executive director, who would then move
Follow.
forward, right, follow up.
So how do you ask all 5 of you questions about this? That's my point.
Mhm.
You could provide us with a list of the grievances addressing the whole board, and then we will go from there. That's how the comment process works. It's not about. Yeah, not about. If you want it back and forth, you can have it staff.
Thank you.
Nicholas Magarino.
Nicholas Magarino, 20163 Marie Court, Loxahatchee. So just got a couple comments on the previous meeting with the high school drama that took place. And I just want to say for the record that Supervisor Argue and Board Member Farrell actually got the quotes wrong on their discussion that they had. I wasn't here for the meeting, but I did go back and watch it. I was only here for about half of the meeting. But the conversation went, basically, there was a back and forth where Rich did not like Betty's position on the fire station and characterized her comments as moronic. And then it came back to Miss Argue responding to Rich's position on the fire station. And a point of order was called, which essentially nullified what Miss Argue was trying to say regarding the fire station position that Mr. Vasilati had. And temper started to pick up. And then Miss Argue, later in the meeting, decided that she was frustrated with the current state of affairs. And she got up to go and leave. And Board Member Farrell said, "You're leaving?" To which Miss Argue said, "Yes, and you will all be much happier without me." To which Miss Farrell replied, "Yep." And then there was a slight pause, and then the word bitch was used. So I think it's fair that if we're going to be talking about civility with all the board members, I think everybody needs to look in a mirror and kind of realize that there are multiple guilty parties here, and it's not just one specific person that's guilty of what you're talking about. So I think if you're going to put together a policy for the entire board to follow, make sure every board member follows it. That's all I got to say about that. Pretty straightforward.
Thank you. And I
Kirk?
think we addressed that already, that this applies to everybody in all cases. So this is not singling out one person. It's just that was the most recent incident. So, you know, this does apply across the board. Go ahead. Hi again.
Well,
3 more minutes.
you want me to go through my address and all that again?
We got you.
Okay.
Yours on the
No,
record.
Just like they were saying, yes, I talk fast because I only have 3 minutes and try to get everything out at one time, okay? But then, like, what just happened, when I got done talking, you wanted to rebut what I had to say about it. You know, and that, but many of times I've been up here and you all contradict me or, oh, wait, like, and it's got into my time, you know? So you all do it to me because you don't want to hear what I got to say. You know, I've asked for a lot of stuff. I don't get nothing from y'all. You know what? But y'all started messing with me. That's why I come in here. She's remembered probably when I came back in here a long time ago, but I hadn't been here in a long time. But y'all want to play games, just like when my house, when y'all doing these roads, you know, you got to look at the community, what they want. We didn't move out here because I wanted paved roads. And if you're going to pave or put the millings down, do it right. Do it right. Don't turn around and make my culvert out standard their roads. Okay. and stuff like that. You don't, you all,
Okay.
you got your own little opinion you all wanna do, like you two, right there, with the AAL and all that stuff. You all sit there and talk amongst yourselves, but you either have a community, community baseball, whatever, that runs the whole thing. You overlook it and do it that way. Once you start adding new new programs in like this, when they don't cover everything, the community should cover the one thing.
Kurt, don't get mad, okay? You have, this is, yeah, you go ahead, stop the clock. So this is not a regular meeting.
I understand that, but I'm
You-
going over
you-
the things that you all do.
Hold on.
Oh. okay,
Hold on,
I'm
hold
all
on.
for that.
No, but I want you to come back on the 18th and you can have your 3 minutes and talk about any other topic that you want.
Is when you guys are talking about stuff that you all want to do and that in the community, when you go to talk to you about the baseball, I believe your daughter or someplace in the one league on the other side. Okay, that's a travel league or whatever, when the baseball was there. I only ask you all, listen, if you're gonna do one company runs the whole thing. It offers everything for everybody. You just don't have one other one, because I did travel ball. I know how it works, okay? But you can't, that's why you're a laughing stock out here right now with that baseball and that. We started it up long time ago, okay? Yeah, I got the lights turned on at the park and that. We went from Royal Palm because there was nothing offered out here. But you know what? Look for the community. Don't look what's best for y'all. The community. Why don't you, that's part of the problem. Y'all just do what you think is right. You know, I heard about the new community there and you're talking about, well, oh, we gotta get a guardrail up and this and that. The 2 kids that just got killed of 130, why ain't them guardrails around that? We should have guardrails all around them circles.
Thank you.
Hernan,
Hernan, 20231 Antoinette. I'm just gonna say a few things like Nick did to kind of show you guys what we think, as I am part of the public, obviously. It's more statements. Nick was onto something saying that, you know, we all kind of point fingers just because Representative Betty has the strongest voice and she's always so passionate about what she says. It kind of comes out like she's the bad guy. That's just because how we see things, we're humans. But it is a dynamic thing between humans to treat each other this way and to escalate, which is a big thing I wanted to mention. You know, back when Keith Giordano was here, there was always this altercation. Like, I've been coming for months. I've been seeing this. It's been escalating since I've been coming. I don't even know when this has been normal. This was bound to happen, something. And to be honest, if this is a fair meeting, because if it didn't happen, maybe it would have continued to escalate in a way that it even would have been worse. We're kind of pointing bad fingers at Representative Argue. I do want to say a few things. You're wise, you're experienced, you've been here a long time. Nobody really says that. I wanted to put it on the record. That being said, you are comfortable. You're too comfortable. This is kind of your home, and you've managed to get away with a few things as well as other representatives. You know, a lot of the things that you're being Representative Argue blamed for, others do. But you know, I just want to reiterate what I said in my 6.1. You guys are representing us. You know, everything that happens here and that you guys say to each other and to the public is what we are showing to the state and others. And now that I'm kind of pointing people out, Michael should probably participate a little more. Just wanted to say that so that he knows we're watching him too. Thank you.
Thank you.
I got rid of it. It was time.
Pia, do you
Is that
wish
your
to speak? You
participation?
didn't check. Okay, your turn. Yep.
Can't win.
You just reprimanded them. Still didn't hear a reprimand for Patty, comment that they were wrong.
Microphone, please.
Bring the microphone down.
Can't hear you.
I haven't heard a reprimand for Rich for his moronic comment.
Don't reprimand one party when there are multiple parties involved. We hardly heard Betty's underbreath comment, but Patty felt it was necessary to publicly jump up and embarrass Betty. So if you want to be different, you should go back and take a look at the prior videos, because you are the biggest transgressor. Yes, Betty does speak because she has knowledge and she does the research. And if I were Betty, I wouldn't help you guys anymore. I'd let you sink and ride this pony to the ground. Here are some suggestions. Please consider having an interactive part of the meeting. Other communities do. Small part of it. I think everybody would like that. We'd be able to do some interactive stuff. Please consider posting a summary of the meeting outcome that we have, so everybody doesn't have to look at the tape. That would be really good, pertinent things. Board members that are rude and catty at the last meeting need to be reprimanded just like everybody else. You each are assigned to monitor a community meeting. We'd like to hear your feedback on each of those meetings as well. If you're going to them or you're listening to them online, we want to hear at each of the meetings when we come, what'd you find out, what happened? Please add that, consider adding that to the meeting. When we ask what the board's position is and we get no answer, I'm told we talk to the county, but when residents meet with the county, there is no indication that any conversation with the county occurred. We need to know the board's position on each of the issues before us.
Thank you. Is that it?
We have two people online. ALA guest, not sure who that is.
Is that you, Bob?
Good evening. Yes, that would be me. I'm sorry. I thought I had my name on there instead of the LA. Good evening. Bob Morgan, Acreage Landowners Association, 13784 67th Street North. Y'all were talking earlier about where the board would make decisions and not, I hate to say behind the scenes, but I was asked by Ms. Scarlett to change my meeting date due to a change of the board meeting this coming month, the regular board meeting. I don't recall a board meeting, or I'm not familiar with any kind of a discussion with the board members where it was approved to change a board meeting. I personally have to go through my board to change any kind of dates for my meetings. Was this discussed with the board? And again, I know it's not a back and forth, but I'm kind of concerned that when people say that things aren't happening behind the scenes, maybe that's not a good term, but things were changed without a board decision. Is our meetings required to be discussed with the board meetings or the board members in order to change a board meeting date? Again, I know this isn't a back and forth, but that was my concern.
Thank you.
William Dirks.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Mr. Dirks? We cannot hear you. We could see.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to state that at the last meeting, Rich started the meeting by encouraging the public to be better representatives and not get frustrated and put sugar on top. Then throughout the rest of the meeting, he demonstrated the exact opposite. Early in the discussion about the AAL permitting, he asked Betty assurances for what? Betty stated background checks, security, and insurance. He sarcastically asked, what do we set up a security booth and scan everyone? Well, obviously not. And the sarcasm was a form of hostility. That's where the meeting started to go sideways. So I think Rich initiated the poor conduct in the meeting, and I wish he hadn't done that. Rich went on to engage in poor conduct by basically calling Betty a moron and stating that her proposal was moronic. On a different subject, I asked, where's the gavel? On several occasions at this and other meetings, President Nakamoto has admonished supervisors for much less seemingly violations of code conduct. And to Elizabeth's credit, she did turn to Patty after she told Pia to recheck her website and said, let's not do this. That was minor. But with Rich's blatantly and without cause calling Betty names without admonishment by Elizabeth can easily reach the opinion that there is clearly a bias happening. And we have to work and do, and we have work to do, and supervisors need to get along for the sake of the public. It looked like a 3-member tag team antagonizing Betty. So I think that's pretty much all I really have to say. I think it goes both ways. I think that Rich missed an opportunity to demonstrate to the public that he has good debate strategy, good debate style, and I wish that he would engage in a healthy debate without having to subvert to passive aggression at the meetings. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? That's it? Okay, well, and as far to all those comments, that's why we're having this meeting tonight, so we can address these things and we can all do better for our community, right? So, does anybody have any parting words of encouragement? Rich?
May I speak about the fire station in Westlake real quick, or is this not the appropriate time? Just 1 minute. I just want to, because people came to me and they're asking me some very important questions, and I can sum something up real quick.
Is Mary, is it appropriate?
Is it appropriate? Sure, and it's related to the last meeting too. Okay, really quick. In the last meeting, Miss Argue said that the Westlake Fire Station was the big lie, that there are no more trucks there. That's completely inaccurate. When that fire station opened in around 2002, 2003, it's called an either or, and there were 3 people in that station. Either they take a rescue on the call or the engine, depending on what kind of call comes out. The fire station in Westlake, the new fire station, now has 9 people there. So to call it the big lie that nothing's changed there is completely inaccurate. They have plasma, whole blood, which saves lives. It is a 2nd Battalion headquarters now. So now Battalion 2, which is this area in Wellington, Loxahatchee, now has 2 battalion chiefs, 2 EMS captains. So I want to just clarify that real quick, that there is no lie, 9 people at that station.
Are you saying that now there's 2 ambulance and 2 fire trucks running at all times from that?
You're not going to get 2 ambulances out in this area out of the station. The call volume is not there.
Okay.
However, you said trucks, the big lie. There is now a tender, an EMS captain, battalion chief, and each of those apparatus has 3 people on it, meaning such as if a chest pain call comes in and there's 2 people on a rescue and 3 people on an engine, those 2 units would run in tandem together. But now there's a rescue with 3 people, doesn't require the engine. So now you have an engine available for another call.
Right.
So in sense, yes, that's like having more trucks there.
But we haven't increased the number of trucks. We went back to 3 people, which is what we were before the cutbacks, and we were the last to get the 3 people on a truck. We have not increased the number of trucks, which my point is
It
that
is an increase because you have 3 people per unit.
Everybody in the county got that, Rich. We did not increase the number of trucks. That's my
Okay,
point.
I'm sorry, I don't think you understand, but you're not gonna get
Maybe I
a
don't
second
understand,
engine out
but-
there. What we're gonna get eventually is hopefully 2 more fire stations out here in the near future. We'll see about that,
Of
but
course we are because of the development, but you understand that we have not actually gotten anything more and we have, except for more housing, we have 3,000 more homes. That's my point. We have not increased the number of stations yet. We have not increased the number of trucks. So that's where I'm coming from.
But Betty, when you have an either or station and a rescue goes on a call with 3 people, when it was in the plaza, the engine is now out of service. There's nobody there to run it. There are 9 people in that station now, 9.
I understand what you're saying.
Thank you.
I do think it's something. This is not the appropriate time to be having the discussion
I
about the
was
fire
just
truck.
about to say that.
But I do think we need to discuss it a little bit more, and understand the issues and what the community has been advocating for years, because this is not a new issue. And my initial complaint that you had referred to, in terms of a 14-minute response time was actually on Seminole Pratt Whitney Road. And the question that I asked is, how on earth does it take 14 minutes to respond to a call on Seminole Pratt Whitney when we have a fire station right on Seminole Pratt in Westlake? That was probably a year ago. What we were seeing was a trend in the number for the response times. And what we have not seen is a new station being built, and yes, there may have been improvements when they moved from the plaza to the new building, but if there's more beyond the 3 people, I'm not aware of it. So, and it certainly wasn't reflected in the response times, which you yourself at the last meeting said is not sufficient. And that's why we need a station on 180th. I just don't think 180th is the appropriate location because it's a very narrow road. It's just not the right location for a fire station. So that's really what my point was. I fully support fire rescue and I fully support having more fire stations out here. I just think that they need to be placed appropriately to address the high density development that's coming around, but also to ensure that our community is getting the service that we deserve and pay for. Okay, thank you.
This is definitely going to be a conversation we have to get into more at a general meeting. It's not really the appropriate time. And to have a conversation is critical, right? It's very important. And we're all going to have, our own thoughts about it. So having a civil conversation is where we're going to move forward to from that one. Right? This is what we want. So, yes, go ahead.
Very quickly, somebody asked about doing a summary of the meeting. Not that it's quick enough, but those are the minutes that are usually posted on the website. So, but they have to be approved. But yeah, so board minutes are put on. So there are summaries.
And that's why we say in the beginning, always check the website because there's a lot of information there that you may not have and may not be aware. And our guys do our best, but remember, we don't have a huge staff and we don't want to raise taxes, right? So we got to do the most with what we have. And this is why, we're bringing out some people to assist us with that. That's not going to affect us too much. And it's not going to take away from staff doing their job that they need to get done. So, government moves slow, right? We'd like for it to move a little bit quicker, but unfortunately that's just not the case. So if we work together, all of us calmly and peacefully, I think we'll get much further. And I think now we're all on the same page, right? Patty, right? Michael, Rich, good, smiling. Okay. All right. So that being said,
Sure.
yes.
So I just wanted to state that there was a question about the code of ethics. And all elected officials and boards in the state of Florida are under the Florida Commission on Ethics. Well, the county has their own. But if you go and you Google Florida Commission on Ethics Guide, you will come up with a whole booklet, and I have a copy I can give you here, Pia, if you'd like it. And that is what we're subject to. And there's a lot of good information in there. And we on this board have to abide by that. So I just,
And
yeah, I just.
and- always.
No.
Yeah. Um,
Used to this, I'm sorry. If we receive something, then that is a public record, which the public is entitled to. I mean, if there's a request made and it's received by the district, it's public record.
and
You have to request it. I
know, we're gonna, yeah. All right, what? Pia, make a list of questions and save it, save it for the next meeting, okay, during public comment, and then we can address that, or, yeah. One thing we didn't touch on, and I'd like to just add it real quick before we wrap this up, social media. Our behavior, social media is an arm of us, and it's become its own monster. And I think we have to really think before we post things on social media, and encourage others to post things on social media. It's not appropriate to blast each other, other government entities, officials, whether it be fire rescue, county, state, federal. It's just not appropriate. So I would ask also that my board and staff and the public even not to do that. I mean, we can't control what the public does on social media, but we as the board set the example. So I think we just have to, we're all, we see something and the first instinct is, get on there and that's not true and that's not a fact and why are you doing this and you're this and you're that. Let's take a breath, step around the pile, think about it, and have a conversation with that person directly instead of making it a social media spectacle. And that's all I'm going to say on that. Moving on, 7.0, notice of meeting. We've noticed,
It was duly
noticed, but what did I say? Oh, I'm sorry, 7.1. So it has been filed, and with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.